Okay, so today it says ggplot2 continued, and we will get there. Before that, I'm going to review, kind of go over my tic-tac-toe code, just show you how I happen to implement the code. Um, it's not the it's not like meant to be the best example ever, but it is it works, and you know, it's fairly, I don't know, it works fine. Okay. But anyway, so allow me to say, be a little cheesy, and I want to say this, okay? And that is, everything will be okay. All right. And okay. Now, and I'm totally serious. Okay, I'm totally serious. Well, because you know, as I go around campus and I just hear students talk, I feel like students bring on so much burden and so much weight based on their academics or whatever it might be. Okay, so I just have a few things I wanna say. Just This is me pouring my heart out to you guys. All right, all right. So first, and okay, your value as a person is not tied to your grades or your academic performance. Okay, and I mean that in absolute sincerity. Okay, because as a student, it feels like your academics, your grades, are like the measure of how you're doing or whatever, and it's very easy to try to compare yourself against other people based on your grades. But that's not going to do you any good. All right, you are wonderful people, whether you have good grades or not. Okay, all right. And yes, it does. I will admit, it feels good to get good grades, but they are not the most important thing in life. And this is important. Okay, you never want to sacrifice your physical health, mental health, or your integrity for the pursuit of good grades. Okay, and for each of you, good grades mean different things, right? For some of you, good grades is only if you get straight A's, and others of you, good grades means like you didn't fail your classes. Whatever it might be, you don't want to put yourself through physical torment in that, like, you want to make sure you get enough sleep. Okay, sleep is very important. Okay, and also, you know, if you're suffering from, you know, anxiety or depression or whatever it might be because of different academic stuff, like, take a break. Okay, it's just, if you have to take some time off from school, it's okay. All right, it's probably a good thing to just take a few steps back and be like, oh, it's okay, I don't need all of this stress. All right, it might cause you to take a little bit extra time to finish school, but there's okay, there's no shame, there's nothing. Okay, I think, I don't know. All right, and also, the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen in this class, or any class really, is that you get a grade lower than what you want, or you have to drop the class. Okay, and it might seem like that's terrible, like you wanted an A and you ended up with a B or a C, and you feel like, oh my gosh, this is awful, or whatever. It's not that bad. Okay, you drop the class, you retake it, or whatever. You have a B or a C, or a, you know, a bad grade on your record. Okay, there's, in the grand scheme of things in life, it's not gonna matter. Okay, so just, I just want to say everything will be okay. All right, and this is a little cheesy, but I sincerely mean it. Okay, you are a complete and capable human, with or without this or any class, and you each of you has so much to offer the world. Okay, I think, you know, your value as a person doesn't come from your academic performance, although academic performance is a nice thing. You know, it's gonna matter what, you know, the people you invest in, the relationships you build, the things you do for this world. Okay, and that's all. That's all I want to say. All right, because I know, you know, we're like getting halfway through the quarter, and in some of your classes, maybe even this class, you're starting to feel stress or anxiety, and I just want to say, it's all gonna be okay. All right, so thanks for indulging me there. Okay, I'm going to show you my tic-tac-toe code here. I'm going to pause the video if you're watching this online, so the tic-tac-toe part will not be a part of the video presentation. So I'm going to just pause here and we'll go over my code. Okay, so yes, everything will be okay, I promise. All right. Okay, so we want to talk about some of the basic ggplot geometries. We've got geom point, line, and bar, okay? And these are pretty much your basic things, and so we'll just talk about some bar graph basics. Okay, and so in this case, you've got one column representing the x position of each bar. Okay, so in this case, we've got a categorical variable, and it's either control or TRT1, TRT2. Okay, and so this will represent the bar, where the bars go along the x-axis, and then the height of the bar will be the weight. Okay, and so in this case, we use stat is equal to identity, meaning just take the number that you see in this column and use that as the height of the bar. And so we just say ggplot, we tell it the mean, and we say we're going to map the group variable, okay, these three categories, to the x position, and we're going to map the weight, the height of the bar, to the y position. Okay, and and here we just say stat is equal to identity, and it produces a bar graph there. Okay. Okay, and let me just show you. Well, maybe I shouldn't waste time doing this, but I can. If I ran, so here we're getting this. Can I swap x and y here? What would happen if I do that? So here it does something a little funny here, okay? In that the y position, if we swap the y position, it does this funny thing where it's like, oh, this is the one that corresponds to control, and so you get this funny thing, and it's probably not what you're expecting. We were expecting it to appear horizontally or something, but it's indicating the y position as TRT, indicating that this has. So it's a very strange way to read this. Okay, it's more so like whoops, something happened. Okay, R just crapped out on me. What's that? Oh, I forgot to upload it. I apologize. Let me do that real quick. Okay. So swapping the x and the y doesn't do what we expected it to. There's an option to, I believe, turn your bars horizontal. Okay, and you have to specify that as a setting if that's what you want to do. Okay. Okay, if we want to create a side-by-side bar plot, okay, meaning that we've got basically two categorical variables to graph. Here we're going to map one of the other categorical variables, in this case cultivar, to the fill. Okay, so here we've got three dates, D16, D20, D21. Okay, and we're going to map that to the x position. So we'll have three positions on the x-axis. Okay, we're going to map the weight variable to the y, and then to indicate that we will also want to map the cultivar variable, we're going to say cultivar is fill. Okay, and so these are all aesthetic mappings here. So that all goes inside AES. And then to indicate that we want them side by side, we use position equals dodge. If I left this off, it would actually stack the bars on top of each other, okay? And because we're not doing any kind of modifications to these values for the stat column, we use identity there, okay? And so this is what it ends up looking like, okay? We have the 3 dates across our x-axis, and then we have 2 colors determined by the fill. We've got C39 and C52 for the 2 different cultivars that we're taking a look at. Okay. On the other hand, if you have a large data set, okay, and so this is probably when you were taught bar charts and things like this in your intro stats class, they said, you know, you've got a categorical variable and you're going to summarize them, you're going to create a frequency table and say, you know, people with black hair, there's 40 of them, people with brown hair, there's 45 of them, and people with blonde hair, there's 25, or something like that, and because you're summarizing the counts in that column. If you're going to do something like that, it's very simple with bar plot. We just don't tell it to do anything with the stats. So here I've got the diamonds data set, which actually has 53,000 rows, okay? I just did head, so we only see the first 6, but we're going to try to create a bar plot for cut, okay? And so when you buy a diamond, if you're going to propose to someone, you know, they say like, oh, this diamond has the ideal cut, or the a good cut, or whatever it might be, okay? And whatever, okay? So we're gonna summarize our 53,000 rows, 54,000 rows, and so in this case we just say we're gonna take diamonds. The only thing here is we're gonna map x to the cut to the x-axis. Okay, we're not mapping anything to the y-axis. Okay, because what we want to map to the y is the summarized counts. Okay, and if we don't map anything to the y, then geom_bar understands, oh, now it's my job to go through and count how many have each of these cuts, and it will graph this as such. Okay, so it's doing some work for us, and it says, oh, okay, I'm going to go through and I'm going to count how many diamonds have the ideal cut, and we're going to put that vertically here. Okay, so that's kind of the default behavior of geom_bar, and we're not mapping anything to the y-axis. Okay, because if we think about it, there's no column here. There's no column in our diamonds table that corresponds to the count of how many have an ideal cut. Okay, and so anytime you're doing a mapping, you have to map a column to that aesthetic attribute. Okay, so because there's no variable that we can map to the aesthetic attribute of the height of the bar, we leave that blank, and geom_bar takes care of the rest for us. Okay. So we've already seen kind of mapping a fill variable. You can do this, you don't have to. So in this case, there's a data set called population change, and what it does is it went through all of the states between the year 2000 and the year 2010, and it mapped how much did the population of that state grow. Okay, and so here we said, okay, now we're going to take the top 40 or top 10 population changes. Okay, so Nevada's population grew a lot. Okay, and this is what it looks like. We're going to say either the region is the west or the south, or there's other regions, but these are the only ones that appeared. And so we can plot this way. And so here we're just mapping the abbreviation to the x-axis, okay, and it's arranged alphabetically here: Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, and so on. The height of the bar is this column right here, and we're using stat identity because we're mapping that column directly to the height of the bar. And then whether the bar is turquoise or orange or coral or whatever color this is, we're mapping the region to the fill. Alright. If you can, so that was mapping a categorical variable to a color, okay? You can map a numeric or a continuous variable to the color as well, okay? So here I'm just, the only continuous variable here I have is change. So if I just say, if I map change to fill, I've got change mapped to both fill and the height, and so we can see that, you know, the smallest amount of change that appears here was South Carolina, and that appears dark, and then the state that had the most amount of change was Nevada, and that appears at the top, okay? And so, or in the brightest blue. And so ggplot automatically creates a scale for us along with a guide saying, okay, we're going to go from dark blue or almost black to bright blue, and that indicates the value in that change column, okay? If you do something like this, it might make sense to arrange them in order from least to greatest. And if you wanted to reorder the bars, okay, so here we're using it's still an aesthetic mapping. We are mapping the abbreviation to the x-axis, but the arrangement of these things is determined by the quantity change, okay? So you reorder by the x variable. This is the x variable that you still want on the x-axis, but then you're going to say arrange it by this variable, and arrange it by change. And so here it's going from the lowest to the highest here. And we're still just mapping columns to aesthetic attributes. Okay. Anytime you're doing a thing, yes, question. What stats identity? So when we look at this thing, we are using this value to directly determine how tall the bar should be, okay? Whereas over with this diamonds thing, we were telling I want you to sum up, count how many ideal cuts and how many premium cuts and all of those things, and then use that to determine the height of the bar, okay? So that's kind of the default behavior of geom_bar. And so in that case, we're not giving it a thing here. If we say we want to use an actual value provided, we're going to use stat is equal to identity. Okay. Custom colors, you can change the scale fill manual and use custom colors, whatever you want to use. So here we're using hex things for yellow and green, but you can use whatever you want. Okay. And if you want a custom color for a continuous scale, I need to the relevant piece is cut off, but you can specify. And basically I said scale manual gradient, okay, for a continuous one, because you got a gradient scale. And I said on the low end we're going to use red, and on the high end we're going to use blue. So okay, I'm sorry, scale fill gradient. Okay, scale fill gradient, low is red, high is blue here, as far as the bar chart's coloring goes. Shoot. Okay. All right. On the other hand, we can produce line graphs. Line graphs, you've got an x and y, and it's very simple. You just say, all right, we want this column to go to the mapped to the x variable. We want this column mapped to the y. And the geometry we're going to plot is a line. This is not very different from creating a scatter plot, but this time, rather than just throwing dots up there, all the dots will be connected with a line. Okay, and so this does this. Okay, here I've got some tooth growth data, okay, and I used dplyr to summarize it. Okay, we're gonna I'm just grouping by supply and dose, and so we got basically 6 different groupings here, and we're gonna summarize based on the mean of the length. Okay, and this is coming from, I guess we gave guinea pigs either orange juice or vitamin C, and we saw how much their teeth grew. And so that's what we have. And so we have basically two two supplement types, OJ and vitamin C, and we want to indicate two different colorings there, okay? So here we're going to map X to the dose, which is either going to be 0.5, 1, or 2. The Y will be the length, okay? So that's our mapping. X is the dose, Y is the length, and then the color of the line will be our supplement type, okay? And then we just say geom underscore line, and that works just fine. And we've got two different lines here. If, on the other hand, if you want other things instead of messing with the color of the line, you can mess with the line type, okay? And I don't know if you guys can see this, but this one is a dotted line and this one's a solid line, okay? Maybe it doesn't look very good on the projector, but on my screen I can tell. All right, so this one's a solid line, and then the other one down here is a dotted line, okay? And again, all we're doing is we're just taking one of the columns and we're mapping it to an aesthetic attribute. Okay, I guess I underestimated how long the tic-tac-toe code would go, so we'll end here, and I'll see you guys on Friday for the midterm exam. All right, don't freak out, it'll all be okay. I'll test you on what we've covered, and that's that. So, all right, see you guys on Friday.